Do you want to watch a movie?
Yeah.
What do you want to watch?
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Okay.
That's my favorite. Look! Tiger!
That gives me an idea. I wanted to build something Star Wars related because in this house, we eat Star Wars for breakfast. The materials I'm using for this build are 5 pieces of 1x4x8, a sheet of 1/4-inch plywood, a 1x11 board, and a couple of lightsabers. These are optional, but awesome. Before just jumping in and building this, I decided that I first wanted to make a scale cardboard replica, just to get an idea of the dimensions that I'll be looking at, as well as how many pieces I'm gonna need to be cutting, and the fact that, well, it's fun, it's fun. The idea is that if you have, say, Stormtrooper and Barbie, and they wanted to watch a movie, they simply take their tablet, slide it into the movie theater, and lay down and enjoy the show. Or it could be laid down to make a makeshift starship, or the movie could be watched that way by simply laying down your stomach and just propping your... Oh, the head fell off. And the shape will help with the acoustics, so that even if it's on a small tablet, both people are gonna be able to hear. And the distance to the tablet will be close enough that you can still see, but far enough away that it's not right in your face. Since this whole thing is going to be built around a tablet, I first took my 1x11 board and cut it to length, and then measured out and marked 6-inch sections with 30 degrees of angle between each. I also took a couple of scrap pieces of 1x1 wood and cut notches into them deep enough that the tablet could slide into. To make the holder for the tablet, I took the piece of 1x11 that I had cut out and marked the center of the board to make sure that the tablet would sit right in the middle. Since the theater can also be sat down as well as stood up, I didn't want the tablet to sit right along the bottom edge, so I found a position that I liked, and then I took my notched pieces to figure out the placement, making sure that there was still enough room right in the middle to push the button if I needed to. Then I glued the pieces and using a brad nailer shot them into place. With the front section done, I next wanted to work on the top section. I took a 1x4 board and first cut out the bigger main pieces, and also ripped out some 1-inch strips for the angled connection pieces. Then I set the saw to 15 degrees to cut the 1-inch strips. Put together, these pieces will make the 30-degree angles that I need to make the shape of the hull. After cutting the lengths I needed for both the top and the middle sections, I glued the pieces and clamped them together to dry. At this point, my original idea was to get a dowel and to make my own dowel joints to connect all these pieces. So I measured out where I wanted the dowels to sit, and then I marked and drilled the holes. Cutting the dowels to length, I checked to make sure that they all lined up, and then glued and clamped them together. It was at this point that I realized there's got to be a better way to do this. So I decided to use a pocket jig and drill the holes to connect all these pieces together. At first I was worried that the boards would be so thin that the screws would go right through. But after screwing everything together, I realized that it was going to work great, and so the top section was done. And at this point, it started to look like a Millennium Falcon. You know, kind of. But there's still a lot to do. I mean, the middle section is going to be really tricky with a lot of angles, and so at this point, I think I need a lightsaber break. Cutting more pieces of the 1x4 and measuring out and cutting out a diagonal from 2 of them, I had the top pieces of the middle section done. Since I'm going to be sliding a 1/4 inch plywood into all the middle sections for the windows, I set my saw to a 1/4 inch deep and cut my pieces on both sides to make the groove that the plywood will slide into. From here on out, I had to make sure to do this to all the pieces in the middle sections. I then started screwing the pieces into place. For the angled cross sections, I marked out where I wanted the pieces to sit and measured the top and the bottom. After figuring out that there would be a 5-degree difference between the top and the bottom, I set my slider to cut out the pieces and then join them together. With those pieces together, I made measurements for the window pieces and then marked my 1/4 inch plywood and using a scroll saw started cutting out the window pieces. I made sure that each piece would slide into place, then I went and cut out the rest of the window pieces out of the plywood. At this point it's really starting to take shape, but now that I have all these pieces cut out and made sure that they all fit together properly, I now have to take everything apart so that I can paint the window pieces and then put it back together. I painted the window pieces black and then picked the side that looked the best to be on the outside of the hull. From here, I started to put everything back together, sliding the windows into place and then gluing and screwing everything down. The last thing I need to do is finish the front. After a lot of measuring and a little trial and error, I figured out all of the angles that I would need to make these fit together and cut out all the pieces. Now that everything is finally assembled, the last thing to do is to sand it all down and then to tape off the window sections and to paint the frame of the hull gray. Since I want to be able to slide my tablet in through the top, I marked a slot where I wanted the opening to be, and after drilling and cutting enough out to ensure that the tablet would be able to fit down into it, I glued and screwed the rest of the pieces together. Now that everything is finally done and put together and sanded and painted and dried, it's time to sit back and enjoy a movie.
Projects I'll be working on, consider subscribing. Or if you want to see behind the scenes and other general randomness, you can follow me on Instagram.